Hi, I'm Perrin Woods, and welcome to A Walk in the Woods, a podcast where we each bring in a topic which we've researched lightly, and we share it to each other and our listeners. We release this on some sort of schedule with Leo.
Hi.
Elliot.
Hello.
And Nalin.
Hello there.
So today we're going to talk about some Roman food. I'm going to talk about anesthesia. Nalin's going to talk about some economics, and Elliot's going to talk about some stuff about gaming. So, yeah. Leo, how about you start us off?
So today I want to talk a little about Roman cuisine. Now, obviously, why are you laughing?
No, I love how you said cuisine.
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 You know what it is? It's called the mush.
Ooh.
I'm joking.
Well, we're gonna get into it.
Ooh,
today.
okay.
Some wine.
We're gonna dig in.
We're gonna
please,
dig in. So,
wine.
first of all, the Roman Empire, just a gigantic, enormous, powerful, empire, all across Europe, and as they grew, their culture grew, and obviously they have a lot of dishes and a lot of specialties that some of them were lost to the world, but now we're kind of rediscovering how they ate, and we learned like a bunch of really interesting stuff. So first of all,
I've got a question before you get into a little.
Are
we talking about, because it was a big empire, I'm assuming that we're kind of going to talk about, are we talking about different parts, or are you going to just focus on like Italy and kind of Roman home culture?
We're going to focus on usually like the Italian Italian culture around that area. Actually, that some of it was brought into Britain.
So the Rome.
The Rome.
Okay.
The city of Rome.
Right.
And that's where you kind of, this is more of an overview of what happened.
Cool.
Of course, different places in the Roman Empire had different kind of like cuisines or different dishes and stuff. So really it depends on your class and also where you lived in the Roman Empire.
I'm going to assume that if you're not, semi-wealthy, you're just going to be eating bread and beer.
Well,
beer.
Yeah, beer.
Well,
but it was made differently. It was less alcoholic.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, so so it really you
sorry to
well.
steal your points.
well, okay, so let's get into it. So, the Romans ate 3 times a day. Even sometimes they ate 4 times a day, just like us. It started with a breakfast, usually at sunrise. That was called. All right, so I'm gonna try not to mess this up. Ientaculum, which was the name. And so this was your breakfast meal. You would have a lot of bread and you'd have a lot of fruit. So this is kind of like a basic. It's a pretty small meal, and then you'd move on to the lunch meal, prandium, which would be more of a snack kind of meal. It's a very small type of meal with a lot of leftovers. A lot of leftovers you would eat, basically just a snack. And then the cena or the cena, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. I think in Italian it might be cena, but
it would be Latin.
Right, but it's a similarity to the
Can I see how it's spelled?
CENA. Right there.
Well, yeah, in Italian I'm pretty sure it's cena.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
And so this was the main meal, right? And this was a gigantic meal.
Ooh.
You had like so many courses plus a dessert. Like you bring in like meats and stuff. It sounds delicious, right? So they'd have this, but sometimes later in the evening, because they ate usually this main meal earlier, like in the afternoon, they would have a smaller kind of meal. But later on into the Roman Empire, they kind of got rid of this because they kind of moved the main meal, the cena or the cena or whatever, up, right? So let's get into the food they ate.
Actually, before we do that,
yes.
I'm interested. Is this kind of where we, in sort of Western culture, have our idea of breakfast, lunch, dinner?
Yeah, I mean, I would expect it to be, but it also can come from a lot of different places. I'm not sure exactly, but I would guess that this kind of came, this is where it came from, because it is from Europe and obviously
a lot of Roman cultural influence.
I mean, does it go even farther back than that? Because the Romans, being the Romans, were really, really big copycats.
Hey, I think you just mean professional borrowers.
Yes.
Copyright strike.
Hey, you've met Plato. Now meet Plato.
Oh no.
So so I'm not really sure about those, where it originates from, but that's kind of those main meals, and they were small because today we kind of have a variation on it where we have bigger meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but that's kind of the basic, Roman dining. That's how they did it. Of course, they had like a bunch of dinner parties and stuff, but so let's figure out, like, each culture has their different style of dining and their different foods and their different tastes. And the Roman Empire was actually, they had really interesting foods. So they ate a lot of shellfish, a lot of meats. One thing that's so cool is that in a Roman cookbook called Apicius, and so this cookbook, it was written in the 4th or 5th century AD, includes a lot of recipes, and one of the recipes is titled Isicia Aumentata, right? Okay, so here's the thing. This is the coolest thing.
Oh.
This is basically the Roman hamburger. No, actually, so like people are thinking that this is where we got the hamburger idea from. Yes, exactly.
So I officially love the Romans.
Not sure at first, but now
yeah. Now that they have
so you're saying it wouldn't be out of place to eat at McDonald's in Italy?
Yeah, so basically you'd have a dude on the street.
When in Rome.
When in Rome.
Get some.
When in Rome, do as the Americans do.
That would be so funny. You go up to McDonald's and you'd be like, "I'll have the Isicia Aumentata."
And be like, "What you mean?"
Yeah.
Can I get a boneless one of those?
Basically a meat patty dish, just like we have, but it was more of a complex dish. So let's see what's in this. So it's made with minced meat, obviously, like we have now.
Yeah.
It had pine kernels in here, fish sauce, which I will get to later, garum, which I will get to later, pepper. Then it had coriander, juniper berries, and something called caul fat, C-A-U-L.
Caul fat.
Caul fat?
C-A-U-L?
Yeah.
Caul fat.
Yeah, so...
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, apparently it was some way of, I guess, wrapping dishes, like wrapping foods, in like a fatty thing, but it sounds amazing. I kind of want to make it now.
I'm curious about the juniper berries part. Yeah. Wouldn't that be a bit sweet? Like,
I mean, it would be.
I feel like it would kind of...
Was it like full berries, or did they like put just the juice on?
I'm not sure, but I'm guessing they might have like
it would have been almost
like a little bit, and then
it'd be almost like the purpose of ketchup.
Man.
Yeah. It would contrast the taste.
Kernels, so it's like
what is a pine kernel?
It's like a nutty, really like like.
Well,
I don't
like,
it's hard to explain it.
You know how in pesto sometimes you got those little nuts. Pine nuts?
Yeah. They just mix it together. It's like that.
Well, I think it would actually. So, you know how we season patties with some kind of sweeter stuff to counteract a lot of the savory.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Like isn't the Worcester sauce?
Worcestershire?
It's a little bit.
It is pretty sweet. It's
really
really
delicious.
Yeah. Well,
I'd say it's
not
tangy.
like a sugary sweet, but it's definitely a sweeter.
It's like I don't know how to explain it.
Sweet.
It's
savory.
like tangy.
Tangy works well.
Tangy.
Yeah.
Tangy. It's really good.
That's probably the closest thing.
Anyways.
That and like a nice cut of steak.
So how about we just open up a Roman cuisine restaurant?
I read about this. There's one in
one?
Portland, Oregon, and they're trying to like revitalize like the Roman dishes.
Can we take a road trip down there?
All right, guys, let's pack it up.
Hey, I've got family in Portland. Let's go there.
Cool.
Let's take a flight.
All right. So one thing that I wanna talk about more is this fish sauce. So they included this fish sauce inside the patty, and this was called garum. And garum was a traditional fish sauce that they ate in the Roman Empire. Now, when you think fish sauce, what is like the one cuisine that you think of?
Fish and chips.
I'm thinking of like the really rare. Like it's like I don't know where it's from, but it's a fish that you cook in soap.
What?
Huh? Yeah.
But okay,
No, that's
so,
the
like,
thing. It's
Wait,
like-
like, what
if
kind
you
of
think
soap?
if you think of like
Yeah.
a place that includes like a lot of fish sauce, where
Like Asia.
exactly
Yeah.
Southeast Asia.
Wait. Oh, hold up. Are you talking that they're trading with Han China and getting their food techniques?
Not
Hold up.
exactly.
Oh man, I got excited there.
Yeah, there might be a I know
The
it's like
history nut.
cultural diffusion type stuff.
Hey,
but
it wasn't just silk.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure like where. Like I'm not sure if there was a connection.
I mean, there's also the fact that they were sitting on a large sea, and usually when you have port side, like seaside towns,
Yeah.
you're gonna have fish.
Yeah.
Right. And so this fish sauce, like we kind of forgot about it, but then we kind of rediscovered this ancient sauce. So in
You know, we just went into like a temple and was like, dang,
like,
we got
oh.
some 500-year-old fish sauce.
yeah, like you
Yeah.
open,
This
you
stuff's
open a
good.
little like Indiana Jones thing. There's like bottles of it.
Instead of a small totem, it's just a container of fish sauce.
Yes.
Hey, you
Yeah.
gotta get the sandbag out. You know, gotta
Yes.
Gordon
juggle it a couple
Ramsay.
times. And
Yeah. Perfect.
Gordon Ramsay has a bottle of lamb sauce, weighs it.
Stop it! Stop it! No! No!
but
Yes,
yes,
Yeah.
There's some
And,
conflict here. Okay. So they in this fish sauce, what they did is they layered fish and salt until it fermented. Sometimes like even blood and fish guts.
Aha,
They used to
delicious.
make delicious. So
Mm.
eventually it would turn into
Yummy.
this really good, also expensive kind of fish sauce that they used in everything. Right? It used as a condiment, as as something as salt, and they dipped things in it, and so there were even like factories that produced this garum fish sauce all over the Roman Empire.
I wonder if it's kind of mayonnaise-y. Or, nah, probably not. It's more salty.
Like,
would it be?
you know, fish like fish sauce that you put on your like I don't know, like pad thai or something.
So do you know that
Pad Thai.
fish? Oh my god, what's that fish
So
sauce
delicious.
called? It's like I don't know. It's white. It's kind of creamy.
Tartar sauce.
Tartar sauce.
Oh,
yeah.
It's less like that. It's more of like a deep, rich, like salty, tangy,
Sauce.
fishy. I think I have some fish sauce in the fridge right now.
Don't get
Um,
lost in the sauce.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Moving on.
So, actually, here's the funny thing about this. So, as the Roman Empire fell,
Mm-hmm.
these cuisines just kind of, a lot of these, like traditions, they kind of got lost, especially garum, because, this was more rare and more rare as the Roman Empire fell, and eventually, it was kind of lost to the world a little bit. And when there were pirates that came in and were destroying some smaller cities, or some cities just in general, it even weakened the presence of things like this.
Right.
So there's actually an Italian version that is kind of like comes from the original, which is something called colatura di alici. Which essentially means
Alici?
anchovy drippings, right?
Oh, drip too hard.
So that's pretty much the story of this garum type fish sauce, and it's so cool to just kind of think that
I
a
feel
long time ago there was this cuisine that was around that was.
I feel like that sauce is like love it or hate it.
Honestly,
kind of
that's
thing.
pretty much it, because a lot of people don't like that like fishy thing. Like,
Yeah.
it's really
Well,
potent. like that.
I mean, that's kind of why I compared it to mayonnaise, because I know that there's some people who will live or
Oh,
die by mayonnaise,
yes,
and then there's
you-
some
Die.
people who won't.
Die.
Will
No, like,
not
I'm in
touch
the middle,
mayonnaise.
Though. I like mayonnaise, but only on some things, and I can't
I-
have too much of it.
Hate mayonnaise.
Why do you hate mayonnaise?
I don't know, but we were camping and my friends force fed me mayonnaise and I threw up.
Force fed you mayonnaise?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean that'll do it. Like I had like a portobello mushroom once, and it didn't sit well, and then I just kind of like no.
Okay,
I don't
let's
like
get back
that's
to-
that's why I
Yeah.
don't
Let's
like
get back to
mushrooms.
Roman
good
cuisine.
food.
Yeah,
Good food.
good
Right.
food.
Yeah, so that's pretty much the
Yeah.
story. I hope you guys enjoyed it and learned a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
Interesting,
seems-
yeah.
We all learned.
You know,
we need to start
I wonder.
a new restaurant.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're gonna start a restaurant. We gotta come up with a name now. a walk in the Mediterranean.
A walk in the Mediterranean. Yes, maybe a swim in the Mediterranean Ocean where we serve fish like a lot of
Fish
fish.
oil based.
Ye
stuff.
old Romanus
Yes.
Mediterraneous
Stop.
foodus.
Yes.
Wait, isn't there? Wasn't it something like Roman Christians had the fish thing, like the fish symbol?
I think so.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Anyway, that's just very off topic, just Roman and fish.
We get off topic on this podcast.
We do.
It's
Speaking
fine.
of getting off topic, you guys
Yes.
want to talk about anesthesia?
I
Sure.
want to
Yeah.
talk about it.
I can't feel no.
My God. I have a really
I've
good
never
story
been
for this.
anesthesiaed.
So yeah,
Anesthesia.
I've never been under anesthesia that I can remember. Get it? Because anesthesia removes your memory.
Stop.
No,
it.
Well, I didn't know
I
that
have not.
until now.
I haven't either.
I've
Ooh.
not been needing anesthetics. So I kind of just came across this the other day, and I was like, wait a minute. I know it puts you unconscious, but like, what? How does it work? Because it's kind of like this mystery substance. You'll
Right.
see it in shows. Someone will put a mask and just suddenly, bam, they're out cold.
Well, that's chloroform. That's
yeah,
different.
No, I mean like specifically a medical. mask. Yeah.
Laughing gas. Okay.
So I was curious and I looked into it. So we're gonna start with a little bit of history. So early anesthetics were still drugs. The anesthetics are mostly drugs and sometimes used like recreational drugs, albeit illegal recreational drugs,
Weed
like
was-
opioids,
Yeah.
are often used as anesthesia even today. So early anesthesia in the Middle East, Egypt, and China, there's like records of them using opium poppies, mandrake fruits, and alcohol, and some sort of combination to make their own anesthesia.
Right.
They also sometimes included hemlock and
Isn't that like
aconite?
poisonous?
They're both poisonous.
Huh.
So it was pretty
boy was
important.
right.
Well, I mean, it was pretty important with anesthesia that you don't mix the wrong amounts, because mix the right amounts and you're gonna have something that makes it painless surgery, or at least surgery you can't remember. Mix the wrong amount and they deceased.
Yeah.
So
deceased.
we're gonna talk about three main types of anesthesia in this:
Fun.
regional anesthesia, inhalational anesthesia, and intravenous anesthesia. So
Real
Oh,
quick, can
yeah.
we just like start off with your question that at the end we can answer it? You remember what it was?
what was my question?
How does anesthesia work?
Oh,
you
yeah.
remember this? Yeah.
That's what I'm working at.
I know, but I
Yeah.
just want to make sure we get this in because it's
Yeah.
interesting.
All right.
Okay.
So
Cool.
keep going.
Go off.
So regional anesthesia, it blocks pain from specific parts of the body from getting to the brain.
So
Basically,
Novocaine?
actually, yes, and I'll explain that in a second.
Dope.
But basically, if you don't need to go under for surgery, if it's just like, yeah, we don't need to knock you out, essentially, they can use regional. It's not like a small area, it's like your entire arm or something like that.
Mhm.
Like a limb, perhaps, might be like, yeah, only that area needs to be sedated, essentially. So an example of this is cocaine actually was used for a while. Funny story about that. Apparently, cocaine was discovered as a regional anesthetic when intern, I forget of what type of science, got some on his tongue.
Oh.
Like, just in the lab, he gets a little cocaine on his tongue. He's like, I can't feel my tongue.
And from that point on, he was addicted.
Big down.
Silence.
X'd out.
So, yeah, more common regional anesthetics and ones used today have a similar effect and chemical structure. So Novocaine, the cane comes from, it's the same branch. So yeah, that'd be a regional anesthetic.
Okay.
So I'll get to how that works in a little. So there's also inhalation and general anesthetic. So this is the stuff that's gonna affect your entire body.
Oh, yeah.
So that's
You know-
stuff you're gonna have the mask on. You're gonna be
Yeah,
huffing that
it-
stuff.
Is this
Sorry.
what they use? Like,
Wow.
is this what
Yeah.
they use now?
This is what is generally used in a surgery. Regional is also used in surgeries, but that's going to be for minor surgeries. This is what you're going to use for like a major surgery. If you need anything like your chest operated on, this is what's going to, I think for a C-section, you're going to use this
Well,
sort of
they
anesthetic.
also use local anesthesia.
Yeah,
for
for
It's gonna
sections,
have
yeah.
you out.
Actually,
Like
local
them.
is smaller than regional.
Well, you know,
yeah.
they do actually use. Well, they
Local?
use a combination. So for regional, I believe what they do is that's the initial, but
Yep.
then when they actually start really,
They
getting
use
in there,
extra.
They use yeah.
Right. And this is what I'm going to get to that point a little bit later too. So, of course, inhalation is taken in through
But
your
I could
breath.
have that wrong. I just want to point.
Yeah. So an example of this one is the first one used was diethyl ether, which was the first common anesthetic in Western medicine. It began being used medically in the 1840s, but it was first known as a recreational drug until doctors noticed, oh, people who are under the influence of that are just like getting an injury and not noticing.
Oh.
I kind of imagine the discovery as like a guy just falling down the stairs and be like, "Ooh, that was fun," and like
Let's
a doctor,
do it again.
and he's got like a dislocated arm. The doctor's like, "Dude, are you okay?" And he's like, "I don't know what you're talking about. I
No,
feel
he's
great."
Like, are you okay?
So the one that's become popular in like future decades, I don't know exactly when it became standardized, was nitrous oxide, which is still used somewhat today.
They
that's-
use NAS.
Yes. But sevoflurane is most commonly used today.
What was it?
Wait.
Sevoflurane.
Sevoflurane. Okay.
Okay.
It's a derivative of nitrous oxide.
Yeah.
Getting chemistry up in here.
Oh yes. So
Me,
intravenous.
I can't organic chemistry for the life of me.
Balance that
So the
equation.
last one, intravenous, was invented in the 1870s. It's often combined with inhalational. This is what you see when you got someone plugged into an IV.
Mm.
If they have anesthesia and that's where this is going. It's going directly into your veins.
I
Okay.
see.
So it's taken as an injection through the veins. Some examples are propofol, which makes you unconscious, and fentanyl, which reduces pain.
Mm.
Also worth
fentanyl.
fentanyl. Also worth noting is an opioid. So now we're gonna get to how these work. We don't super well know. We
Uh-oh.
have
Yay!
So most of the stuff here we have pretty good guesses, and for some of them we understand how they work. Like several common anesthetics bind to the GABAA receptor in neurons. Basically, that lets negatively charged.
Yabba.
Yes.
Ah.
It lets negatively charged atoms and electrons into your neurons, and that prevents positively charged stuff from going through them, basically blocking the electrical signals.
Yeah,
because
I thought that's what most of them did, was just a neuron
Some-
block.
something like that. The thing is that we don't know for sure. We don't
Okay.
have the specifics. That's
Alright.
the entire thing that's kind of
Still gotta
interesting
learn.
about this to me, is that we use like tons of anesthetics on tons of surgeries,
Right.
and we aren't 100% sure how it works.
It's like imagine like somebody asking the doctor, so how does this work? It's like
Well, they
I don't
can.
really know.
Well, they can give you basically what it's going to do.
Right.
We know what it's going to do. We know the doses. We just don't know the specifics of how it works. It's like how if you were to drive a car, you might know that the engine runs it needs gas. You can completely know how to drive a car extremely well without knowing the actual internals. That's
Yeah.
kind of like how I think of this.
Makes
So
sense.
we have kind of guesses and close but not exactly specific, like why does it bind to these things.
Mhm.
So for regional, it barricades the proteins in neuron cell membranes and it prevents the electrical messages. So
That makes
basically
sense. Okay.
imagine it's like putting a clamp over the neurons. The
Oh.
electrical signals from your brain to your arm or your arm to your brain,
They're not
just
gonna work.
it's not going to communicate.
Oh, is that what makes it numb?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh.
it's that you just
It's-
flat out can't
You can't-
communicate.
You can't. Yeah.
That's why for some, I think it's Novocaine, but I'm not sure. But for some, if there's like a strong enough stimulus to it, you'll feel it, but you'll feel it delayed by several seconds.
I have a question. So this is a little unrelated,
Yeah.
but when you're really cold, like when it's really cold outside, and maybe like you can't
Yeah.
feel your hand, like is that like, is that when your hand is not really sending like electrical signals to
I
your brain?
I have an
don't
idea.
know.
I
Mhm.
feel like maybe like the pathways are being constricted because the cold. They're like
Oh, they're,
I
like,
think it's
seizing
got to
up
do
maybe?
Yeah.
with blood.
I
mean,
think it has to
it's-
do with blood flow because
Yeah.
the blood flow
Oh.
stops moving, and that's what's really creating
Oh,
your
that's
body
like
heat.
your
that's what
circulation
gives it
yeah.
the energy to. It's literally
Yeah.
just that part of your body doesn't have the energy or ATP in the cells to be able to create
So that's like
electrical
some
signals.
of the
I imagine.
hormones move in the blood, and when you're not.
Well, I would just imagine that
What?
the
No.
blood can't carry energy to it because it's
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just
slow.
it's just you're because everything's cold and your appendages are at the outer reaches
Oh right.
of your body, and they're the ones that are most exposed. It's a lot more susceptible to the cold. So what happens is your blood still flows, but once it gets to that region, it starts to slow down because it
Right.
actually starts to freeze.
Oh, okay.
dang.
Anyways, back on topic. So intravenous, what we've thought about is so all of these work by affecting the nervous system.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But what we think is that in both intravenous and inhalational, basically the brain, we've noticed that the signals become calmer and more organized. Like normally your brain's like a humongous mess. Because you've got these signals going all across it.
Just like my brain.
But when you're under
It's like me doing
anesthetic,
homework.
like general anesthetic, when you're under general anesthetic, like it's much more organized. You can probably path them much clearer, which shows to scientists that parts of the brain aren't communicating. And we think this is from the blocking of neurons, but again, we don't know the exact specifics. These are I thinks. We're getting pretty close. Like we have these good guesses. It's not like we have no idea how it works, but we aren't positive.
Well
Did
proven,
you
well thought
lose an
out theories.
electron?
So I've got a little extra things to know about anesthetics. Moving off this, so nervous systems have different neuron channels. Like you don't have just one single line of neurons. You've got a bunch of them, and these channels have different things that they do. So like movement, memory, consciousness. That's why it's technically under anesthetic. You can not become unconscious,
Yeah.
but you will feel like you're unconscious because it'll probably be blocking memory and
Oh, yeah.
sense and movement, but it might not be blocking consciousness.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know, it's pretty interesting. This is something that I don't know as much about, but that I just think it's interesting that you've got different wires for the different
Right.
stuff that you do.
That's- yeah.
Like you can basically, I mean, I guess it makes sense how you could sometimes because of something, you might be able to not move your arm, but you can still feel, and you still might be able to like have sort of memories for it.
Mm.
So like, your motor function is impaired.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Like a lot of drugs.
Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah,
Drugs.
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We think that most anesthetics don't work on just one. They work on a certain number, but we
Oh,
don't really know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that we don't really know.
Yeah.
Gosh, it's almost like that's the point
Yeah.
of existence.
And
Oh, God.
It's
like
we're gonna get super like existential here.
Yeah.
Like what was it like last time or a couple?
Wow.
There's been some times
Oh,
where
yeah.
we've gotten like really thoughtful about.
talking
Yeah.
about
Topic.
I think phone stuff.
Oh, or the game theory.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
Yes.
Anyways,
Not YouTube game theory something.
yeah.
else.
So we're talking about like a few closing points. Anesthetics also affect other organs, because they are
No duh.
drugs. It's not just the nervous system,
Mhm.
because you're talking about how these old ones were opium, mandrake, and alcohol. Like 2 of those are pretty darn
Ooh.
strong drugs.
Yeah.
I don't know about mandrake, but I assume it would also be a
Never
strong
heard of
drug.
that.
It's yeah, I'm pretty sure. I mean,
Yeah.
it's used in other stuff, and it's a pretty strong substance itself.
And we talked about how literally the first inhalational anesthetic was a recreational drug before it actually was used medically.
Right.
Yeah.
So Yeah, to get the features that you want of anesthesia, doctors have to really carefully mix it, get the right doses,
makes sense.
and then continually monitor the patient, because if you're using a bunch of different drugs, you don't want something to go wrong
don't.
there. Because, that's going to be bad.
I would expect it to be.
Yeah.
Bad.
But
that's
the
bad.
positive thing about anesthetics is they've been super helpful. They're a
They sound
humongous
like-
medical breakthrough. They've allowed for really efficient surgery.
Makes sense.
Even though we don't really super know how they work.
I think that's really interesting because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people assume that science has done so much and we've learned so much about the universe.
And I mean, we kind of have, but at the same
have,
time.
But there's always something more to learn,
Mhm.
and I think that this is something that really supports the scientific process. It's like we don't really know everything about
Mm-hmm.
it, so the more that we work on it, the more that we learn about the universe.
Yeah.
And the neat thing is, what currently is the modern thing in science, the thing that's most important, is kind of how we view the universe. Like, we think of a lot of stuff as computers, like computational nowadays. But back in, the 19th century, they were thinking of a lot of stuff as like, maybe related to like thermodynamics and steam and, the most modern inventions of that time. It
Right.
makes you ask, what's next? What do we have
is
yet to
next?
learn?
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure what's next in terms of the computational side is AI, but
We're getting.
I don't know.
I cannot wait for AI to be like legit.
and to kill you, sure.
Okay,
Let's not
Okay,
get
Elliot.
I'm sure there will be
Play
safeguards.
next song.
All right.
Anyways, speaking of anesthetics, they cost money.
Uh-oh.
Nalin, how about you tell us about money?
Transitions
Yeah.
on
Hey,
point.
Yeah.
There are economic anesthesias. I can say that
We're-
much.
we're
But that's
loving
not what
this.
I'm
Ooh,
talking
We're
about.
loving this episode.
So
So,
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 Yes. What you got?
a survey done by the
Okay.
Wall Street Journal.
we like surveys.
Yes, we do. We love surveys. Take the surveys. No.
Make
so-
money off survey.
A survey done of economists by the Wall Street Journal predicted that there will be an economic recession in the U.S. at least
Uh-oh.
by the end of 2020.
that's pretty soon.
Mm.
That is
Yeah,
soon.
but it's not super soon, but it's
We
pretty
got
soon.
That's 2 years. That's pretty soon.
That's
That's
2
2 years, but that
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, the end of 2020.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But like, we can prepare within a year. It's not.
Oh, how about
Save
you tell
up.
us about how we can prepare
Yes.
within a year?
You know what? That I'm getting to that.
Awesome.
So there's this thing called the yield curve, which is basically it shows how much the U.S. pays for national debt and kind of other spending parts of the government. And this is one of the predictors for a recession. And so there are a couple tools to actually fight a recession.
Okay.
The first one is a monetary policy, which is basically the Federal Reserve lowers interest rates
Sauce.
for
banks.
just in general.
Okay.
There- I mean, but there's one specific interest rate called the federal funds rate that kind of affects everything else. Basically, lowering that lowers other interest rates. So, like, if you lower that, it'll lower, say you're buying a house, and you're getting a mortgage. The interest rate on that will be lower. That's an example.
So how does that protect us against a recession?
In the next couple sentences, man.
I'm leading you to it.
Okay, all right.
Yay.
So this has worked before. They did that during a couple of smaller recessions after World War II, and they also used it. Yeah, they also used it during the Great
2007?
Recession of 2008.
Oh yeah.
You're close enough.
Oh yeah.
It pretty much
it's
started
like
in 2008.
7, 8, 9. Like
Yeah.
those were years that. There's
Yeah.
trouble on that.
So the idea behind it
Uh-huh.
is that it encourages more borrowing and economic activity because it gets more people and investors to go and buy stock, buy loans, buy borrow money from the government, stuff like that, and,
Right,
and
so-
that increases economic activity, which boosts the economy.
Huh. So it
That's
incentivizes
awesome.
spending.
Yeah, it incentivizes spending.
Huh.
Yeah, because
We should get recessions more often.
well now that can cause
that's
more
a good way
problems.
to go into the next part too.
It basically it speeds up the system getting out of a recession.
Right. But
Yeah.
what are the
Solid.
downsides of this?
So, the downsides are that it can take a while. It can take a long time for the
Heck.
2008 recession. They dropped the federal funds rate from 5% to around 0%.
Oh, geez.
yeah,
That's a big drop.
Yeah, that's really big, and I'll get into why it's a bigger problem now if they do that. But it was around 0%. It was
Right.
like 0.1% or something like that for around 7 years.
Oh.
It's only gotten back up to 2.5% right now.
Huh.
Which is really really small when you look at it. And the fact that it's 2.5% shows that because of the predicted recession, if that does actually happen, there's very little wiggle room to actually use this method
Right.
of getting out.
So what other method do we have?
So another way is to quote print money,
Oh.
which is
Oh, God.
it's the real term for it. It's not actually printing money. The
It's
real
minting
term,
money.
Minting, yeah.
well, printing because paper. But
Just
okay.
make coins out of silver again, please. I need more of that.
You know, melting money is a felony, right?
Yes, I know.
Okay. So it's called. It's also called quantitative easing. It's basically where the government starts to spend a lot and buy a lot of bonds and stocks and everything.
Huh.
Like stocks.
It can be used in this case, but the real question is whether or not this method is really going to be all that effective.
Right.
But basically what this does is the spending of the government goes up, and that keeps us at a more steady rate than if they didn't. And then a third and final option is just spend.
Right.
Just spend and spend and spend on pretty much anything.
Government or people? Or
Both.
Okay.
But this actually won't work because of the financial cushion. We don't have a large financial cushion. That 2.5% of the federal funds rate, that is really small. So if we were to drop it, we'd have to drop it, to 0, basically
Right.
flat. And that's not good. However, there is some debate to how much the national debt would actually affect the economy if this were to happen, because some of spending, the spending method also affects how much we're paying to the national debt and how much we're spending on everything else.
Right.
And because our debt has pretty much doubled by this point from 2008, there is not enough headway for us to just start spending.
Right. So how does this relate to the saying that I've heard multiple times of the world runs on U.S. debt?
God.
Well, we're in a lot of debt. We're what, about 20 trillion?
Oh God,
And
that's
I
much
feel like
higher
it's
than
more.
I remember.
It's more now. It's
Yeah.
probably closer to 30.
Last time that I heard about it, it was just 14 trillion.
That was last year, yeah, but it goes up a lot.
Oh,
I
my.
think what is it right now?
I'm checking. I'm
Okay.
checking right now.
Probably $5.
Yo, I'm
So,
gonna just give the government my $5.
so the national
bill.
debt, so
Perfect.
our government and everybody else,
Yeah.
is 21.97 trillion.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money,
Yeah.
even for a government.
There's gonna
Yeah.
be
It's
a
a
lot of
money.
lemonade
So,
stands to pay that money back.
Stop.
Basically,
So-
the U.S. is just
Stop.
We
this
just
this
keep
relates
getting
to
more and
like
more debt.
that saying that you said, because the U.S. is constantly paying its debt, but that debt is
Mhm.
constantly getting bigger.
Well, I mean, isn't there the thing that like Congress has been doing for many, many, many years, where there's like a limit where they're supposed to
Yeah.
get rid of the debt, and they're just like, well, let's bump that up.
Yeah,
Bumping.
but
Mhm.
it's at this point it's kind of negligible because we're screwed either way.
Oh,
But
no.
This is pretty depressing.
oh my gosh, it's almost like a recession leads to depression.
Oh, but I have some questions, just
Yeah.
in general.
Okay,
So I'm like, I don't really know a lot, obviously.
that's fine. Neither do
Right.
Same.
I mean, about all things.
Didn't we just discuss about how humans, period, don't know a lot?
Yeah, we kind of had a mini
Exactly.
existential
All right,
crisis.
so here's my thing, right? So a recession, basically, a recession means that we're talking about the U.S., right?
Mhm.
We're talking about the U.S., but in turn, it could affect the rest of the world.
Okay, so the U.S., it has to do with stocks, like.
No, it has more to do with government spending and savings,
So how does
and the percent, the interest rate on loans,
Mhm.
and specifically government loans,
Okay.
and just I'm pretty sure taxation also
oh yeah.
plays a role in it. And
So it's just like
stuff that.
the economy just kind of it goes down.
It goes down.
So-
Yeah.
I think another question that might be worth asking is, how does this affect us? Like, what
Yeah.
effects
So-
would it have?
That's a big thing.
So basically, so you know how in 2008 the housing market crashed,
Yeah.
just absolutely crashed, and nobody could sell for anything. So, that would pretty much happen again.
Basically, you would just lose money.
You would lose money relative to what the dollar is actually worth. So
Right.
let's say you had $20,000 in the bank. That would be worth, relatively speaking, a lot less than it was. Let's say this is 2020, so like 2 years prior.
Right.
So I'm guessing that this is gonna affect people because in about 2 years we're gonna be getting ready and starting. Most of people around our age, we're getting ready to go to college.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm guessing that's gonna be a big. There's gonna be a lot of difficulty when it comes to a lot of people trying to get into college in the U.S.
I guess the question that I would ask would be like, how would that affect us specifically in this sort of case? Like,
Right.
How is it going to affect, living price? If we want to go and have to rent somewhere,
Yeah.
or if, for example, someone decides like, hey, let's go on a gap year trip, how is that going to affect like travel prices and stuff like that?
I'm not sure how it would affect travel specifically, like airplanes, because they have that pretty locked down, and because it's international.
Right.
Maybe the prices will increase here, but I don't think they'd increase all that much because there's another source of income coming from many different places. For
So
most of the
basically,
international
transport
airlines.
industry is going to be cruising on through when it comes to international transport.
I mean, if I remember correctly, that's what it did last time.
Huh.
So
That's interesting.
I don't. It's mostly it'll affect internal affairs. Yeah, your paycheck's just not going to be as strong as it was.
So what else do you have to say on this?
Basically, and NPR got a quote from here, but I don't have it written down. But basically, if we can get out of the government shutdown now, or soon, like really soon, we should, and like more so, we have to prepare for this.
Right.
And we
Right.
have to take some of these measures. Maybe there are a couple other that weren't mentioned, but we have to take some measures to prepare for this recession. Otherwise, we could be hit really hard.
Right.
And it's an increasing problem as it gets closer.
Hmm.
And then there's also the whole thing that it happens pretty much every time where there's a predicted recession, and then investors and
Yeah.
everybody starts pulling their money out because they
Right.
don't want to lose any.
And that's what caused the Great Depression, right? Was
Yeah.
basically there was a bit of a stock fall. Everybody's like, ah!
Yeah,
and then
those-
that caused a big stock fall.
Imagine them at their houses, right? It's
Mhm.
like 3:32 and 23 seconds in the day, right?
Mhm.
And the whole city, you see all through all the windows, somebody's looking at like a piece of paper or something,
Yeah.
and then they're like, "Whoa!"
The stock prices, I felt it. They're dropping.
And then like it shows like the whole like the wide view of like the earth, and like
Yeah.
it's like the whoa, like from everybody, like all the different countries, like the Great Wall of China. You see like the overview, and it's whoa, and like
Investors are just superheroes. They're like, my stock sense is tingling.
Well, I mean,
Sell,
it's kind
sell,
of,
sell.
It's kind of like that, in a sense.
Instead of Spidey sense, my stocky sense.
I wonder if Spider-Man can sense parts of the economy.
Oh Jesus! Oh,
Ooh.
oh God! Oh no!
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah.
If Spider-Man was bit by a mosquito, would that make so if Spider-Man was bit by a mosquito,
Would that improve the U.S. economy?
And if somebody was bit by that mosquito, would they become Spider-Man or would they become Mosquito Man?
Well, I mean,
Mosquito Man. It'd be- Oh, no. Oh, you mean after he was Spider-Man?
well, I mean, wouldn't it be the sort of thing where it's like it's not like if two people were bitten by the same mosquito, it's gonna infect their blood? Like, I would assume that.
Well, I mean, you can get diseases from
That's
like
true.
that.
Depends
West
on
Nile
whether
virus,
it's a
etc.
disease or not, I guess.
Right. I mean, it's
I mean, it's his DNA, so I and it doesn't act like a virus.
So I would expect not.
I'd say
it's just a
yeah.
DNA
Right.
mutation. That's not gonna
We're
transfer.
we're taking on really
Oh, yeah.
important conversations today.
U.S. economy. Who cares about a
Well,
recession that could be
Spider-Man.
bad? We need to know if
Mosquito
Spider-Man is
Man.
I need
contagious.
pictures of Spider-Man.
Well,
Spider Mosquito Man.
speaking
That's
of Spider-Man.
Yes.
Video games. That's an interesting
Yo,
topic.
these
Oh,
transitions.
you're on point.
Yes, I do
today.
love the transition of.
Hey,
Speaking of
can I just say-
Spider-Man
can I
video
just say,
game,
that Spider-Man game that was released on PlayStation, that was top notch.
Sauce.
Okay.
So good.
Okay, so
As
So-
he gets out his gaming
what are you gonna
laptop.
tell us about video games? What's this
They
about?
exist.
They do.
Yeah, they are a
Do
thing.
they?
so okay,
It looks at
Now-
me like.
I'm gonna try and be as objective as possible. I'm gonna try and speak with as little of my opinion as I can because I'm very passionate about this.
very
Okay.
passionate.
So-
That's
As
important
our-
to be passionate.
We want to hear some of your
As
opinion.
all I mean, as two of us are, plus Leo is kind of a little bit. I know you like Just Cause and that kind of stuff. I mean,
The only
gotta-
video-
But who
Blow
here
it up.
doesn't? So, something that's been
All the parents in the audience.
uh,
Sorry.
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 Shout out to
That
my
was a-
mom.
That was a joke. That was a
So-
joke.
a kind of a problem that I've been seeing with just a lot of stuff concerning video games in general is people are claiming that video games cause violence or that video games have extremely negative consequences when someone is playing. So one of the biggest things
Uh-huh.
is mass shootings, right? And I'll talk a little bit more about this, but mass shootings aren't caused by video games. Now, I saw Perrin, you were kind of getting winding up to say something.
Oh no, I was just gonna ask. Wasn't this kind of an older news topic? Like I remember that this was a very heated discussion in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
it was a
Well, that
It was
was
right after Columbine.
yeah.
That's why
I-
this whole thing got started.
And I think that it was, I think one of the Grand Theft Auto games was one of the big things at the time. Like people were like, "Oh my god, that game is horribly violent." I don't know which one it is. I don't particularly care.
Yeah.
When did Doom
But-
come out?
No,
Doom was like
Doom is-
1996.
Yeah, that's it. That
Okay.
wasn't. No, it was.
That
a-
wasn't one of the causes.
It
No.
was
No.
Grand Theft Auto was one of the games that
Oh,
was
it was?
most
Okay.
taken issue with.
When did the
Um,
first COD come out?
1993. Sorry.
Yeah. So I'm curious: is this related to this, or is it a continuation, or is this
It's-
just sort of?
It's something
like-
that I've seen come up in like last
recent
year, recent years,
Hmm.
like the past couple years. So okay,
It's being revisited.
yeah.
to
So
speak.
early 2000s, the first COD game came out, the first Call of Duty game.
Yeah, I
So that
still
may have
think I'm pretty sure that it
caused it.
was just mainly Grand Theft Auto that was the major issue that
I mean, there are
there,
other
okay.
problems.
there was
with-
I think there was
Sorry.
legal issue taken with that, and that was what I think got the ESRB founded. I think that the ES
What is the ESRB?
basically
that's
they
the rating company
rate
for games.
video. It's like how
Um,
movies have their ratings, right?
right.
The video games have the same sort of ratings, and there was an institution founded around the early 2000s.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
I think
that
so, yeah.
now rates video games.
Oh, like
on-
E for everyone.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
E for
E-
everyone.
E10 plus T and M. and
mature,
I think
right?
that's it.
No, there's nothing about
Yeah,
that.
okay. Yeah, M is mature,
Yeah.
T is teen, E10 is like
Everyone
10
10 and up,
plus,
and then E
is
is-
everyone.
everyone, yeah.
like families.
So the first GTA came out 1997, so
Right.
that could
Oh,
definitely
that makes sense because it
be
was
part
the
of it.
top down.
Though,
like,
yeah.
the first
I
So-
thought that one was actually pretty different. I think it was the second one that was the
Well,
issue.
second
Which-
one came out in
Which one was the first?
99.
Which one was the first like third person aspect? Was that? That wasn't Vice City.
I don't know. I don't really
Yeah.
follow the
San
game.
Andreas. I don't know. I don't remember. But I think when GTA 5 came out, like people really started getting.
Oh yeah, I
revved up.
heard about that. Mhm.
I mean, I think that people
But-
just have an issue with the series as a whole.
I mean,
With-
but there,
I mean,
there are other
understandably
issues
so.
besides violence in the series. Like there's a lot of misogyny. There's a lot of there's a lot of racist features. There's a lot of just really
they kind of go
touchy subjects.
They go over the top in not the greatest of ways.
Yeah.
Anyways,
But this isn't
Elliot,
a debate
yeah.
on that game.
I
So-
want to
Elliot.
hear what you have to say
Um,
about this.
Okay, so a lot of people think that video games are horrible and they cause like horrible problems with just like mental issues, violence, stuff like that. And
I'm kind of curious. I haven't heard people say that extreme. Like video games are horrible and do. I've heard
I've heard that.
a little bit laid back, but not that.
oh no, I've heard some
radical.
pretty radical and extreme stuff against
Yeah.
video games.
I have to.
Okay.
So one thing that I just want to discuss first is video games
Yeah.
do actually have benefits. So you have to take it like you have to realize that the benefits can come with like later on down the road consequences. So first of all, gamers on average have better hand-eye coordination and reaction time,
Well,
which
I
is
mean,
pretty good. You know, like,
I do have one question.
yes,
What? Sorry, I'm kind of asking all these questions.
yeah, yeah.
What are you defining as a gamer here? Someone who's gonna play.
Someone who is so okay.
Okay.
We're
can
talking
I
like,
give you a little bit
Yeah.
of a question? I've got like 3 categories. Are we talking someone who's going to be playing competitive games on like whatever system?
Perrin.
So-
Here's the 3 categories:
Mhm.
mobile, console, and PC.
Well,
the
no,
only
I
2
don't-
real gaming
No,
platforms
no,
are
no,
console
no.
and PC.
First of all,
I'm
I
asking, are we talking about people who are going to be playing, something? Am I considered this sort of gamer who's going to get hand-eye coordination if I decide to play, like, say I want to just go and play a bunch of Minecraft, or I
That's-
want to
Minecraft
go and
would.
play a farming simulator.
you're gonna get better hand-eye coordination, not particularly reaction time. with that
Okay,
one.
that's
Yeah.
people
So-
who are competitively playing.
Not
Well, playing competitive
Competitively.
games.
okay. So
Yes?
kind of yes. Take something like Overwatch.
Yeah.
Which is what sort
Which-
of game?
It's a first-person team-based shooter, objective shooter.
Okay, so
Um,
anyways.
So with something like that, it's all online,
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
95% of it's online. There is player
Right.
versus computer, but you have to have really good reaction time, because
Makes sense.
yeah, the whole game is about working as a team to combat the other team,
Right.
and if you get focused on by like some
the
if you-
entire team.
if you get focused, you have to have good reactions to go into combat with those people and try and survive.
Right. So competitive games are going to give you better reaction time.
Yes.
What you were talking about downsides. Like you said there were these benefits, but they can come with long-term consequences.
So the benefits you gain from gaming,
Right. You can get
when playing a lot of video games, it can lead to an addiction, and that's
Mhm.
that's like one of the big things that a lot of people are seeing. It's the way that it's portrayed by the media, by most media, is that video game addiction is extremely rampant. It's like extremely like common, but it's very few people are actually truly addicted to the point where they actually like
feel the need to like
feel the
do
need
it.
to game. Like they'll put off food and sleep and like other stuff that a human needs to survive to play video games.
Right.
And it's
So
a
that-
very, very small
There's-
percentage.
so
There's
that-
the media's addiction,
Right.
and then there's real addiction.
So that's what
Yes.
I guess that's what you're defining as that's what's defined as the difference between a addiction and just a hobby that someone's quite invested in.
Yes.
Okay,
So-
so addiction. So in this case, addiction's going to be where it is actively hampering other parts of their life
Yes.
compared to. Okay.
Yeah. So I'll just say, take someone like me. I'm an avid gamer, but it's not
Yeah.
something where like if my laptop were to break, or if my parents were to take away my laptop, I'd get pretty angry because I paid for this myself. But it's not something where I would freak out about it. I'd be pretty sad. I'd be mad at my parents that they took it away. But it's not
that's just
something.
because the thing itself is valuable.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not like I would suffer withdrawal symptoms from video games.
Right. I think
Like-
that's an
Yeah.
important that's an important like marker to see.
Distinction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like and if you're thinking like am I too do I like playing games too much? Like
So-
maybe I play games
Yeah.
too much.
So
like,
well, you're suggesting like if you're worried, just like take a break, like just,
maybe no like see
yeah.
how you feel and then be like from there I can gauge where I'm
Yeah,
at.
just like be like I'm gonna put this computer outside.
I mean, there's
I would not suggest that.
as someone who has gamed till 3 a.m. before, there's like doing that once. And then there's doing
it
that
daily.
Every
Yeah.
single
Yeah.
day. Yeah.
I mean, of course there are people who do that,
Uh-huh.
and that's the addiction right there. But there aren't. But doing it once is okay because say you're really into
Well, I mean,
doing a thing in a certain game with a group of people. Go
I'm
ahead.
Yeah.
saying okay to an extent. It's still not advisable to stay up till 3 a.m.
Especially on
Okay,
a school night.
unless it's like New Year's, like we
Oh,
did.
yeah.
Well, see that's a celebration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Anyways, continue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now I want to. So there's the
Oh, no, the
addiction,
copyright
and then there's
strike.
also the violence. So
Right.
this is a huge thing, and especially in recent years, with more and more video games coming out that are first-person shooters and that are based around violence.
Yeah.
Right. Isn't one of the most popular at the moment is a game called Fortnite, where the idea is to,
Yeah.
That
So-
sigh was so horrible,
isn't it a
guys.
game where the main goal of it is to
Kill other people.
Yeah, you win
I
Kill
feel
by
like
as many people
most-
as you can. You're the
Yeah,
last one
well,
standing.
You kill
Yeah.
by being the last person alive. After
Well, you
yeah.
win by being the last person alive. You kill not by being the last person
right.
Yes. So
alive.
You kill by being the only one alive.
now with something like Fortnite,
Mm-hmm.
it's a very cartoon-y game. Like it's got very cartoony. graphics.
childish.
It's childish. It's not.
But that's what's appealing.
Yes.
Actually,
now it's not realistic. It doesn't look real. You're not getting blood and gore like you are from other games such
Right.
as Doom, especially Doom.
Oh
The
yeah,
2016
Though-
release
the 2016 version specifically.
is very gory, and a lot of people and like the Call of Duty games, you're
Mhm.
killing
I think
what are very, very similar to
Oh, yeah.
real human models. And
Right.
what people are concerned about is that those games are
Desensitized.
desensitizing you
Mhm.
to killing and to violence. And I want to bring something up. Fantastic YouTuber Bulletberry explains in one of his videos that this game Splinter Cell, there is
Oh,
a mission
yes.
that you have to do
Mhm.
where a character will help you through the mission, and at the end you are told to kill her, and he did instinctively and he killed her. Later in the game, if you didn't, she would be a sniper and she'd try to take you out. The thing is, he felt bad about it. Like
Right.
during the mission he became attached to that person.
Yeah.
and he just instinctively did it because he was told to by like the commander in the game.
I think that brings up a separate question, but
Yeah.
I want to hear what you have to say
Yeah.
further.
So I thought that was extremely interesting. He actually felt
Right.
bad that like there
Yeah.
was this important person in this mission, and this important, like, it was central to the game. Like, she helped you out like throughout the mission, and then he was like told to
Right.
kill her, you know. And
So where are you going with this?
so a lot of people are saying, you know, you're just mindlessly killing what look like humans, but you're not getting attached to them, and it's
Yeah.
not like you're actually killing someone who you've seen character development with. Like with him, he saw character development in that character, you know. Like it's a lot different than you know, like when you see somebody on the street, you know they have a life, they have gone through stuff, you know. It's not like it's just an AI thing that's just chasing you around trying to shoot
So
you,
you're
you know?
saying that people know enough to make a distinction between a random character in a video game, and they recognize that it is merely a game, and that character is just code, not a real person.
Yes.
So I want to play devil's advocate here.
Okay.
I've got
Yes.
a couple counterpoints. I'll go kind of in the order that you went. So something that about Fortnite, you've said that it's cartoon-like graphics, and while it's not realistic, it uses guns a lot, and the cartoon-like graphics make it open to a lot of younger children to
Yes.
play the game. I'd like to raise the point that even though there may not be blood, it's a game that incentivizes killing and shows using guns as a reward. What I understand, I think that as an adult, it's not going to be something that is. I think that desensitization is not something to worry about as an adult, because your brain has finished developing. I think that you have mostly developed your like core morals and understandings of
Yeah.
things. Of course, there's always more to learn,
Yeah.
but you are not physically. Your brain is not physically changing in the large ways that it is as a child. And I'd like to raise the question that I think that it very well could desensitize someone who, especially if they're like 8 or 9, is going through the earlier, not like mid-developmental stages of their life, is playing a game like Fortnite where you see a lot of shooting and guns. Even if there's not blood, it may not desensitize you to the imagery, but it might, like, I don't know, is that something that's going to, impact you?
Maybe it becomes like a normality that
Mhm.
that you're.
So
Like,
there
even
is,
though
like,
it is a cartoon, I think that there's plenty of cartoons that influence people when it comes to like television.
well, yeah, but
Yeah.
so the way my parents always made a distinction with like, oh, you're allowed to play this game, but wait, I'm not allowed to see this movie or something like that. Hold on. So the way they always made the distinction was, so like I always had stricter, for lack of a better word, restrictions on what I could play in terms of video games versus what I could watch in terms of TV and movies.
Right.
And the distinction that my parents made was, you're the one, killing or
Put yourself in the character's shoes.
yeah, you're putting yourself in the character's shoes in a video game,
Right.
while in a movie you're just kind of watching it happen. However, I somewhat disagree with it because of what
Now-
Elliot previously said with with like getting a connection to a character.
I'm gonna.
But
I-
I feel like it was kind of a good point that they made.
I have heard this exact thing from one of my very, very close friends' dad. So he explained, like, it was years ago, and he had seen like a very, very violent movie, a lot of killing, a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
And he was younger, and like I was kind of confused because like he wasn't allowed to play violent video games at that time. So I was kind of just thinking like, that's interesting. And the way that his dad thought of it was in the video game, you are making the choices. You are deciding to kill these people. You know, you're deciding code, not real people,
Well,
but
yeah.
you're deciding to kill
Characters.
characters. And in the movie, you have no control over it. You know, you're observing it, you're watching it happen, and I feel like that's kind of a good point.
In a movie, you are watching a story told by someone else, whereas in a video game, it becomes your own story.
Yes.
That while you may not create the overall story, you're creating the moments in it.
Yeah.
You had talked about this guy who you have this mission where you have to kill this character that you make an emotional connection to, and you said that that's different than killing someone else, and that it was good that he felt bad. I'm curious, isn't it bad that he instinctively did it in the first place? Like, to me,
the thing is, it's a very time-gated thing. You have to be very
It's
fast about
you're
it.
actually on a timer.
Yeah, you're
Right.
on like an elevator or something, and it's going down, and you should be listening to your commander. You know, like you have to follow orders throughout the game, and so like your commander tells you to do it, so you're supposed to.
So again, still playing devil's advocate here. Isn't that a bad thing to instinctively listen to it? Like,
So okay, but like going along with putting yourself in the character's shoes a
Mhm.
bit here, it's kind of like there's a whole argument to be made, like, oh, that's how the game is intended to be played. So
right? Okay.
and honestly,
I
like
think
what
that
Elliot
this is
said,
not.
that she comes back in a bad light.
This is
like,
yeah,
she
sorry.
comes back in a bad light later on. I feel like that that kind of punishes the player for letting her live, but I don't know if that's just me.
Yeah, I think that that's sort of a separate discussion. But I've got one last little counterpoint here in that while adults may be able to make the distinction between mentally without thinking about it, might be able to make the distinction
Mhm.
between a character on the screen that you're controlling and the characters that they may be like shooting in a game, such in a more violent game. Again, what's that gonna do for younger people? And I think that that's where a lot of this argument comes from. It's not talking about, adults. It's talking about people who are still growing. And I think that it's worth noting. I would argue that the younger a kid is, the more impressionable they're going to be to that. And
Yeah.
I think that if you play a game where, like, when you're young, you have a really strong imagination. If you're playing this game, what's to say there aren't these character stories to you? Like, it very well may be that that if you can't quite distinguish between a character on a screen and some stranger in real life far away across the street, what's to say that there is a difference psychologically to you?
I don't know.
I will say younger children do tend to be more impressionable.
Yeah. So
But also
your mind is still
Mhm.
developing.
but also like there's some parental guidance in there. Like you should, parents should make the call. However, some of them don't do it very well on both ends, letting their children see too much or not letting them play and enough of what they want. But I wouldn't let let's say I wouldn't let my 10-year-old son or daughter play the 2016 release of Doom, because there are some scenes in there that are very graphic and 100% not appropriate for that age group.
Though there is also another thing to point out, that you may have a extremely violent game where you're killing completely not at all humanoid, like spiders. I think that a gory game about killing spiders is more appropriate than a less gory game about killing humans.
Yes, because you're not killing humans, you're killing let's just say monsters, as kind of a
Demons.
generalization. No, yeah, if it's
we're,
Doom, but
we're,
like
we're using
like in a generalization.
okay.
You say you're killing monsters. What's an example?
We don't need to.
But okay, all right.
Example.
But but yeah, you're not being desensitized to killing or you're not being impressioned that killing humans is good. You're it's more so just a mythical creature.
So you're saying that if I play a spider killing game, I'm gonna decide to buy a shotgun and go kill spiders.
Spider-Man.
So-
Brought us
Nah.
back to the
But
original
so
point.
I,
of
like
Spider-Man.
I don't want to. I think that you have more to talk about,
I
Elliot, and I
do.
want you to be able to finish up here.
So, something I just want to say, the whole thing
Mhm.
about like the parenting. One thing, same YouTuber Bulletberry, he brings up, the parents shouldn't just throw the game at the kid and allow them to play. Or like throw an R-rated movie and allow them to watch it, or throw movies at them. They should at least like be parents. Sit down, watch the kid play. If they realize, okay, this is not something I want my child to be playing, then we'll take
Right.
it away. If this is not something
you can
I
do
want my child,
research.
so
So you're
that's kind of a
saying-
big thing. A lot of like people are making claims about like younger kids being affected by video games, but the problem is those parents that are making the claims are not doing their job as parents and like seeing what the kid is doing.
Yeah.
So you're
You know?
saying that it is on the parents for, while it does give them the child a little less independence, it's important for the parents to be the one sort of moderating and making sure that it's not something that they don't want their kids seeing.
Yes.
That it's on the parents, not the games.
Yeah.
And so
But I mean, there's a whole other discussion about like it's also on the rating system to be a bit more strict about it, but that is 100% a different discussion. So
yeah.
So what else?
So one thing I just want to bring this up quickly.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people claim video games cause violence. So there have been people who did studies, and on average, after playing a violent video game, a person's like amount of violence, I don't know like how to describe it,
aggression.
but what?
Aggression.
Increases about 4%.
What does that compare to watching a violent movie?
I don't know. The study didn't specify, but about 4%, and it's for a very short time. Like,
Yeah.
I don't remember what they specified, but
I think it's
minutes,
like half an hour or less.
even
I think it's
yeah.
like 10 minutes
It's
or something.
very, very short.
So you're saying
And
on adults it has a minimal effect.
and teenagers.
But
Yeah,
also,
yeah,
when
teens
you're
and-
playing a video game, like whatever video game you're gonna play, the thing is, like most video games include stress in your goal because you're trying to get to a goal, so you're working your brain, so you're trying to figure out how you're gonna do things. That might also be able to contribute to the kind of like the rising of your blood pressure or something. You're getting more excited.
Yeah.
Though
Now-
I'm actually going to argue for the case. I think that actually there are many games, they can work your brain in very positive ways if you're playing the right
totally.
Like
games.
a puzzle
Like
game.
puzzles.
Yeah.
Oh
Mhm.
yeah.
Or
Strategy
or
games.
Even
Yeah,
a
RTS.
competitive
Yeah,
game.
real-time strategy.
like even a competitive shooter, if there's a strong teamwork aspect to that, and strategy of where you might want to move yourself to, like I think
Right.
that could definitely
Like-
have positive benefits on working with others, and just kind of general planning in that sort of sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, last thing I want to bring up, I've even heard like extremes of video games causing people to like become extremely violent and then commit a mass shooting. And the problem with this is very, very small amount of mass shootings actually happen after a gaming session. It's a very uncommon thing, and I don't have the statistics up.
Well, does
I
it
would
have,
assume
are you
that-
speaking about like? I mean, that would be assuming that somebody would be playing a game and then right after they would do something like that.
I feel like that
Are
would
you
be.
you're saying that, or are you saying maybe that people
So-
in their lives, generally?
So there were actually a couple studies done on this, and I'm gonna I'll let Elliot.
So I was just gonna say that what most of the mass shootings are caused by is caused by hate towards a certain group or just somebody who's actually like insane
Mental
and
health.
can't
Yeah.
can't control themselves. It's not.
So you're saying it's
The
That-
video games are very small,
Uh,
very, very small.
And
aspect.
actually, there are a couple of studies
correlation
done to
is not causation, is what you're trying to say here.
But there are a couple of studies done as well that actually show that people who played video games, like on average, who played a lot of video games or kind of a medium amount of video games, on average actually had less normal aggression than
because it's a relief.
because
it's a way
a
to
relief.
get it out.
The people who didn't, specifically in cases of mass shootings and terror attacks, that's just what I'm going to call them. Specifically in those cases, there was actually a large absence of video games, and specifically violent video games. And I just want to point out that. So
I'd like to. Do you have anything else to specifically say?
Not really.
This was a fun episode. We learned a lot.
Yeah.
We have
Yeah, this was great.
So, thank you for joining us and listening to A Walk in the Woods.
Yes.
I've been Perrin here with Leo,
I'm
Elliot,
Eh.
and Nalin.
Woo.
We will
I'm
see you, and you'll hear us sometime later.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.